suppose you could say it's a 2-for-1 special. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil and here to do a breakdown and review for chapter 167 of Four Knights of the which is known as Percival versus Gareth. And dare I say, this chapter lays some interesting groundwork. As interesting as the previous chapters, kind of, sort of, I don't know. Maybe because I'm excited for other fights. I ain't go, I mean, there's no way Percy loses. Like, the chapter's titled Percival versus Gareth. And, we know Percy's winning. And, that's it. That's all that matters. And, I just want to see Ballin. I ain't gonna lie. I just want to see Ballin, bro. I don't care about Gareth. I'm glad other people care about Gareth. I don't care about Gareth. I want to see Ballin. And I know Gareth is losing. I don't care about Gareth. So, Nakaba, you better get to cooking one way or another, because right now you're just wasting my time. I can't be waiting weeks on weeks to see Ballin. Because I know I gotta be waiting weeks on weeks to see the Ballin. We're doing this in multiple chapters. Percy should have watched. I'm sorry. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Heading me. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Beltreep's design would be so clean and so fire if it didn't have this stupid behind clown face. I don't like it. Legitimately, I get it. It's supposed to be somewhat menacing and off-putting and likely meant to play into the whole childish theme that surrounds Camelot. Ultimately, it's a land of dreams and illusions and majesty where everything's perfect. We make the verse multi-solar system level at a bare minimum. But still, it's cool in that sense. So I get why Nakama keeps the aesthetic. But other knights don't have it. Maybe it's meant to play into Beltreep's own childish nature and how deeply he ties into Camelot and chaos itself directly, considering he took the deal well before Ironside and Pelgard did, and that's why he has this smile on his armor. And I don't know. It breaks apart the... Ooh, that's bad. I'm getting a rash there. But it breaks apart the design for me, and not in a good way to break apart design. There are ways you can do it. There are ways you can definitely break apart design in a better fashion. But with how clean everything else is, from the dual spiked horns to I love the different way these come out, to the sharp pointed end, even to the weird phasing thing going on with the there it is. But the weird phasing thing going on with the mask here, down to the claws and everything, even the blade, it's just it's the face. And it's so noticeable every single time. I think it's because it's in the dead center of his design, and obviously, he's drawn how Nakaba draws a lot of his armored characters, with a very broad and pronounced chest. If you realize why all the knights seem so top heavy, it's because Nakaba, he typically does the inverted pyramid physique with all of them. And since that's the center point of the design, even though I think it's mainly probably supposed to be the head because with the elongated horns, I keep noticing it. I don't like it. If you're asking me what I would do to replace it, maybe just give him a jewel, or maybe give him this pattern, but in more of a diamond shape, or I say diamond's appropriate, or a pentagon-esque shape. And I think that would complete the design better. Because anything, this texture does seem a little bit out of place, considering it reappears nowhere else on the armor piece. Meanwhile, Pelgard has... Well, actually, no, I think his gem is a 1-9 thing, too. So maybe it's just me complaining, don't get me wrong. It's not it makes it a suddenly bad design. I think the rest of the design is fire. But this just... It messes it up for me a little bit. But actually, let's not waste any more time on the color page. Let's not the color page, cover page. Let's actually hop into the chapter itself. So we open up and we get to see Beltreep and Capadoni strolling along. And Beltreep is a strange character in the sense that I don't know how to voice him. Half of the time, because he disappears for such long swaths of time without speaking, that I forget what voice I gave to him previously. And also because I just can't pin him down. This chapter in the live reaction, we can check it over on Patreon for Souls $1 a month. You can remember her Souls $3 a month. Check out the live reaction. I kept going back and forth. I'm gonna give him this voice. You're gonna hear it, and I'll stick with it. But it feels like the character changes every time we see him, and in the multifaceted character way. It's not any new interactions or information we get from or get about Big Papa Beltreep is contradicting anything. In fact, it just re-amplifies certain parts of his character, but the voice is vague. I'm interested to see how he gets voiced in the anime, considering I don't think he's spoken. By the time of the end of part 1 and so far what he got into part 2, I don't think he's spoken yet. So I'm interested to see how he gets voiced, because I feel the voice heavily depends on the face. If you'll remember how I voiced Worldane before I found out what Worldane looked like, I'm pretty sure it's 2 different things. Let's see. The fun's about to begin. The winner last time is back, still searching on foot for strong opponents despite earning the right to leave. I don't know what Capadoni's on. That boy's around. Let's see. The sharp-eyed kid has some rather neat power. But let's just hope this time provides the kind of action I need to make my blood boil. So, this opening statement, this opening pages have 2 bits of crucial information. Actually, 3. Number 1, there was a previous winner of Onfwin, or the Gladiator Festival, who decided to stay. Now, based on our contestants, I think it literally has to be Ballin. It has to be Ballin. It can be no one else but Ballin. Let's think of the rest of our lineup. It can't be any of our knights, so that already excludes Tantris, it excludes Percy, and excludes Tristan. They're the same people. I make gawain. Then that naturally would exclude everybody else, because they're associated with the knights in some way, shape, or form. So Anne, Donnie, Hauser, Pelio, they all have to get removed as well. So that's what, 7 so far, and then Gnostians as well, so that's 8. So that's half our contestants out. Considering the sharp-eyed kid has some rather neat power, I'm assuming that's Gareth, so that's 9. Mystery package is Gother, because it has to be Gother, gosh darn it. I saw the volume extras. I know it's Gother. You can't trick me, Gother. Just because you were intelligent, everyone else was stupid, doesn't mean you can trick me. And then the remaining are the other 2 of the Tristan platoon, so 12 would make Isolde and Kion, leaving 4 slots left. Then that leaves Gildra and his crew, who just arrived here. So that boils it down to just Ballin, because that's 15. And Ballin's the only unknown. So, this does 2 things. Number 1, it means that Ballin has won the previous tournament. He's the incumbent tournament fighter. Meaning, there actually is a possibility that he is our final contestant. Now, before, I was putting all my money in the Tristan versus Percival run. Like, I was thinking both of those 2 are going to have real intense fights all the way up. Maybe not intense fights, but they were going to get all the way. The final was going to be between them, and it was going to be Percival's job to somehow free Tristan. Vice versa. But now with this being established, that Ballin is a previous tournament winner, he's extremely powerful, and he's specifically sticking around in order to see if he can scrounge up anybody worth fighting in Onfwin, hoping that a more powerful person appears. I actually wouldn't be shocked if it was Ballin versus Percival instead, and instead we give the reawakening of Tristan to Isolde, because they're going to fight, clearly. So, like, maybe that's the case. And if that's the case, who is Ballin? I forget, did someone mention Gareth is one of the Knights of the Round Table? I believe Ballin is one too. I believe so. But in that case, who is Ballin for real, for real? Is he just a new powerful character? It wouldn't be the first time Nakaba just introduced a powerful, swole guy out of nowhere. But typically, they always end up doing something more. And don't get me wrong, we're in post timeskip, we definitely get introduced to a bunch of new characters who ultimately I don't think will go that far. Like all of King of Diane's kids. I like them. Most of them. Except for Pow. But outside of them, like, I don't see any of them doing anything important. We have Gnostians. We have the important King of Diane kid. Outside of, like, cameos, I don't expect to see that, 7 other kids anytime soon. So, I'm not sure. But the thing about those kids versus Ballin is that Ballin's already being hyped up to be powerful. So, who is? He looks like the reincarnation of the Demon King, kind of, sort of. We saw the young Demon King, and I was comparing the 2, Ballin's facial structure to the Demon King's facial structure. And build-wise, they're about the same. Fit-wise, they're about the same. And even sword-size, they're about the same. When the facial structure's different. But that could just become, or be, of the process of reincarnation. You could argue maybe, while the Prime Demon King is what the Demon King looks like in his prime, maybe his facial structure is different, because he's specifically fused into his son, who has aspects of his mother. I don't know. But still, that level of power and hunting down for strong opponents doesn't sound like the Demon King kind of thing to do. But then again, reincarnation for how it would work with the gods is completely unknown. We don't even know if the gods can reincarnate. Specifically, the Demon King, considering he was erased from reality, as far as we know, across multiple separate spaces. So, if he appeared here, that's strange. The other common theory being seen going around, there are three schools of thought when it comes to Ballin, because Ballin's pretty popular at this point. At least he's popular with me, he's popular in the polls for some reason, and he's popular seemingly whenever I look about him. But 3 popular theories I've seen. Number 1, he's just a completely new character. This is like the arguably most interesting and also most basic answer. We just don't know who he is, and he's not meant to be a callback or anything. 2, he's Lance. I've seen a lot of people theorizing he's Lance. Mainly because at the rate and speed we've been picking up the Knights again, it seems like Nakaba does kind of want to get back to them. Ever since Percy woke up, we spent what, 4 chapters in between that and getting Gawain back. Then we got Gawain back. Then we got Tristan back, not, 3 chapters later. So I wouldn't be shocked if we go through this whole tournament, bada bing, bada boom, it's Balin, and then Balin gets revealed to be Lance. For one reason or another, hiding his face, investigating Onfwin, bada bing, bada boom. The only reason I'm hesitant for it being Lance is that it doesn't make any sense for him to be here. Right? You know what I'm talking about? Because, like, especially if he noticed Tantris being here at any point, he would have done something. And if he had the right to leave, he would have left. I think he would have gotten everything he needed out of Onfwin. I don't think it would make sense for Lance to be here extensively. But then again, Lance also spent a majority of part 1, or not a majority, but at least like the first half of part 1 as a fox. So like, Lance and the machinations of his mind are completely unknown. Third idea, it's something that only I've been pushing recently. I haven't seen too many people talk about it. Reincarnation of the Demon King somehow. Or maybe a subconscious reflection of the Demon King created by chaos. Because with Gareth revealing last chapter that they've just always been here, we don't know the origin of Balin. Where Balin came from. Why Balin's Balin. So Balin could literally just be a product of chaos. Or a product of the realm. We do not know. It's the power of them that has me so focused on them. But Balin aside, Gareth, being noted by Beltriep to have an interesting level of power, or an interesting, some rather neat power, is also interesting. What does that mean? Especially considering what we learn about Gareth's ability and power later on. It seems intriguing that Beltriep of all characters is focusing it, because he makes the specific, I can speak! He makes the specific note that let's just hope this time, as in last time, there wasn't a power like this, but let's hope this time, this in italics, provides the kind of action I need to make my blood boil. Now, that implies one of two things. Either A, it implies that Balin swept the last tournament so easy that it was boring, or B, Balin isn't as powerful as Beltriep. Both can be true. Balin could be a threat to Beltriep, who knows? But Beltriep being seemingly the absolute master of this realm, with complete control over it, as we'll see later on with his abilities. Or what he does, not necessarily his abilities. But also his seeming supremacy as one of the 4 evils directly serving under Arthur and infused with chaos. I wouldn't be shocked if so far he hasn't seen anybody powerful enough to oppose him. And once again, that does raise questions for how our knights will deal with him. Considering chaos just buffed Pelgard and Ironside, and we've already seen a sin-tier threat sort of mollywop Worlding, who's also amped by Arthur and chaos. So I don't know, there's a bunch of interesting stuff set up on this first page, but let's actually hop further into the chapter than just the first page, as we see the tournament setting itself. Now, this is an interesting arena. It does remind me of, ironically enough, it's like a flat heavens arena. And I'm only saying that because I just literally, like, today wrapped up my reread of Hunter x Hunter. But with it being the case, we do get to see that the crowd is huge. It's wild. It's filled with a whole bunch of different people. Who knows could be up in this crowd. As we see Edlin and Boris are currently sitting together. And Edlin says, Donnie and Master made it in, but here I am in the stands. And of course, Boris is like, huh? You were actually aiming to win this, Edlin? As in, he's genuinely bamboozled that he thought Edlin had a dream of participating in to any decent value. And, you know, I don't blame him. But Boris, does that mean you just came along to sit and watch? Well, you should at least have tried to be better, broski. But with it being the case, we see that Edlin's actually a little bit insulted, as he says, I don't appreciate what you're saying between the lines, Boris. Don't make me put these paws on you, big bro. Or as, ironically, Boris is genuinely big bro. It's crazy to think about it, though, because Edlin is a trained holy knight to some degree, while Boris is just a dude who grew up in Camelot. Like, remember, he was a kid when he initially got transported here after the loss of his sister. I forget. I think he had a dad. I think the dad just abandoned him early. But the loss of his sister, he was transported to Camelot. He went there and he grew up his entire life there. So this is actually interesting that he's all big and beefy while Edlin's all, you know, slim. Not saying that I could beat either of these two in a fight. They would absolutely bodybag me. They are actually muscular. But with it being the case, we see Edlin say, of course, our mission was to sneak into the Gladiator Festival and help the Knights of Prophecy. Perhaps I was doomed to warm the bench anyway. And he was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have him here, but like, even when I saw him in the volume extras, I'm like, what is he gonna do? and especially once I saw Boris, I'm like, what are y'all gonna do? So it does make sense. If we're gonna do a 16-man tournament, because I don't think there's any way Nakalo is gonna do a 32-man tournament, you know how many characters do you have to make? I genuinely, it makes sense that these two would be the bench warmers. So I am glad they're at least getting acknowledged. Once again, I don't expect these characters to be too important in any grand scheme, sense, shape, and or form. Like, it just doesn't really make sense for Nakalo to do that. But still, at least he's giving them time to show off their characters and be acknowledged by the narrative, not completely forgotten. So essentially giving them coming here a purpose beyond the basics. As we see, Boris think to himself, but Pelio and the Knight Captain made it in. And I don't blame Boris for automatically knocking Edlin down a little bit, especially considering he does know Donnie and knows his level of power somewhat. But like, in Edlin's defense, based on his history, it is very likely that he would just be the weakest. His magic isn't the best. It's one solid illusion. And he's been out of practice. Like, he spent the last 2 years training under Hauser again, I presume. But still, I forget how long he spent with those bandits not really doing anything training-wise. And he obviously has only been training. Meanwhile, Donnie and Hauser and Pelio have likely all been fighting to some degree. And obviously, Pelio's trainer is just a lot better than Edlin's trainer. Pelio's trainer is presumably, if we're going off the plot line set up at the end of that episode and those chapters in season 1, Pelio, over the time skip, did end up getting trained by Gother, presumably, as that was the promise that they made back when Pelio was Peliotis. So, I think training with Gother is much better than training with Hauser. Because Gother can probably literally read your mind, body, and soul and figure out the exact kind of training you need to become a dangerous threat. But, with it being the case, we see that Boris just drops the whole plot for some reason, as he says, the idea is that the winner will take the evil knight's head in the award ceremony, right? But what if a Knight of Prophecy doesn't win at all? And this is an interesting idea for twofold reasons. Number one, ballin'. Number two, I think it's neat to show that Boris just doesn't really understand the hype behind the Knights of Prophecy and sort of remind us that he doesn't really get it because he never saw them in action before. But presumably, considering the competition, it only makes sense for a Knight of Prophecy to win. Will it be Percy? Probably. Could it be Tantris? / Restore Tristan? Probably as well. Could it be Gawain? Maybe. I hope they don't lose the ballin'. But at the same time, I wouldn't be mad if they... I feel bad for Gawain, though. If she loses the ballin', is she cooked? Like after the time skip to immediately lose the ball, that'd be kind of embarrassing. But, I mean, I wouldn't be too shocked. We could get Gawain versus Tristan. That could be a cool matchup. To lead into... I don't know. I once again would not actually be mad if it was Paulin versus Percy. Because I think Paulin's that cool. He hasn't even done anything. He's just cool. Listen. What if a Knight of Prophecy doesn't win at all? And we see Edlin say, right? I thought that too. So tell me, who'd you place your bets on? Showing that Edlin still does have a lot of his bad habits from way back in part 1. Which I guess makes sense. Once again, he went back to Hauser. He did get saved somewhat. But like, habits are habits. And gambling is gambling. And it is addictive. So, which is why I try to avoid it. But with it being the case, we see that Boris is like, that's not what I meant, for one, and for two, do you even know if you can take that money back with you? Is it going to be fake illusion dream realm money, like my sister was? Oh man, my sister. But, with jokes aside, we do get to see that Capardoni comes over the loudspeaker. I guess. I'm not sure how he does this. Once again, it's presumably, I think that's the appropriate word here. Presumably, him and Beltreep just have direct control over this realm. Or if Beltreep has complete control over Anfuin, then he can lend the control somewhat to Capardoni. Because notably, he's not doing the gigantic projection thing he did 2 chapters ago. He's just speaking to everyone mentally, I guess, as he says, audience, are you excited now? It is time to welcome our gladiators. And we see the first initial duo walk out of the black hole, Percival and Gareth. And we see, while Percival's amazed to see so many different people around, Gareth is like, I must clap his cheeks, take his money, take his life, and get my freedom. But unfortunately, because Gareth is Gareth, they're not winning. Nakaba is subversive, but Gareth's not winning. Nakaba, let's not play these games. You can't beguile me. But with it being the case, we see first Group 1 of the A block. And we see the many different audience members rousing and cheering, get him! Get him! This guy's got wings for hair. And we see that Edlin says, hey, it's him! The dude who jumped me! And like, I say getting stabbed in the side is not necessarily especially by one person, it's not necessarily a jumping. But we see Percy waving and enjoying the limelight as Gareth just walks right on through, ignoring everybody. And we see that he gets hyped up as he's sent out. Notably by seemingly everyone. It seems like everyone is here. As... Is it crazy? When did Super Smash Bros. Ultimate come out? It's been... God, I'm getting so... I remember... Oh, man. It's been 6 years since Smash Ultimate came out. God, Sora's been in Smash for 3 years. I heard that announcement and I was like, what? Hold on. When did Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS come out? 2014! Wow, it was only 4 years between 4 and Ultimate? For some reason, that blows my mind. Man, it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years! Oh, let's really date myself. How old is Super Smash Bros. Brawl? When did it come out? No. When did Super Smash Bros. Brawl come out? 2008. So it's 2000. Yeah, so yeah, no wonder. I felt like it was forever between Brawl and 4. Because, like, 2014. So, yeah, they just had a quick turnaround time on. But then again, it was for the Wii U, a dying console. So I get it. I get the quick turnaround. But then all aside, everyone is here as we see that they say, let me see you win it, Percival. Yeah, don't blow it at this point. Right, whip that punk. As Tantris stands confused as he's surrounded by literally everyone else. Notably, he does look over his shoulder, and someone immediately turns to look at Tantris based on the size of their hands, and the fact that they do immediately acknowledge him as Tantris, and the fact that they're all cloaked up and do not specifically look like Mystery Package, who's presumably back here with everybody else. I have to hazard a guess that this is probably the fake Isold. Once again, though, I wonder what the whole story behind that is. I kind of went into it when I was talking about it in its own review, but I still think it is strange that Tristan was the only person to undergo this weird keification process. Oh, is that a word? Keification? Why does it sound kind of fire? But the keification process, where he gets his memories wiped and everything drained out of him, and now he's a completely different person based on a fake name he made up one time so he could be undercover. Like, it feels a little wacky, a little silly, a little goofy, if you will, but I want to know why and what this thing really is. If it is just like another fake illusion and dream, how did Tristan dream it up? Or how did Tantris dream it up? I don't know. But still. Now, silence, please, as Lord Beltreep offers his opening statements for the festival. And we see everyone's looking around, confused on where the voice is even coming from, only for a spire to appear on the opposite side of the entrance to the arena. And it rises and rises and rises. 4 spires come out, or certainly, yeah, it is 4, because 1, 2, 3, 4 spires come out, and we see Caberdoni and Beltreep here on the top of the spire. Very tiny. But once again, I think this further embellishes Beltreep's control over Anfuin as a whole, as a realm. Because this isn't just the same teleportation thing that they were doing. This just seems like straight up Earth manipulation. And while you could definitely argue maybe that falls under Beltreep's power set, because we don't actually know what his power set is, I genuinely do think his power is just like erasing space. Not necessarily manipulating Earth and stuff like that. Just based on how he immediately swings his blade and then Gother and everyone else got sliced in half. There wasn't necessarily a wind pressure effect like we see in the original series when someone swings something really, really hard. It seemed like they were just straight bisected, as if Beltreep was swinging a spatial blade that extended far beyond the range of his normal blade. But that's just me. As we see, Beltreep and Capodoni stand atop the spire. And we see everyone shocked, bamboozled, and amazed to see them. And Percy locks in as he says, it's him. Now, who is this? I think that's Isold. Yeah, it's Isold. That's Isold. It's so funny. This does not look like Kyan, but I know that's supposed to be Kyan. But we see, Beltreep is posted up. Like, yo, what's good, Magus? Nice to see y'all. As he cops a squat in this uncomfortable looking behind chair. Like, if you control creation, bro. If you can make anything, why would you make a chair with no cushion, dog? Like this is the most uncomfortable looking chair I ever done seen. But with it being the case, he pops right on down and says, to all the vermin whom I care not in the least about, I hereby allow you to enjoy the Gladiator Festival alongside me. So, he is offering, why did my hip pop? But, I'm getting old. But he essentially reminds everybody, you are filth, you are trash, my boss is making me do this, at least holding and watching over you all, but this tournament is for me, and me exclusively, but I'll give you the privilege of watching it with me. I'll let you enjoy the festivities, quote unquote. You're all just here to fuel the wishing power of Camelot to keep it maintained. This multi-solar system feed isn't going to maintain itself, so y'all just here for that. So you can enjoy it alongside me. But all y'all are garbage, trash, woolly butt meat, not worth anything. And I do like that. Once again, like I mentioned earlier, Beltreep and his voice, the whole dilemma I have is because I feel like I don't fully understand the guy. But multiple things here. As we'll see, Gawain says, careful, ain't. Oh, and there's Hauser too. I didn't know. See, Hauser, Donnie, and then I think that's Isold. Is it meant to be ants? He's so tiny. Let's see. Careful, ain't he? Looks like those 4 spires are generating an invisible barrier. So, couple things, like I mentioned earlier. Beltripe had nothing to let his blood boil, but he's still not risking his own safety. Meaning he does believe that there are things out there that can harm him in this tournament, even if he doesn't fully understand them. Because remember, he's still apparently under the effect of the illusion thing, as he never called anybody. Despite everyone introducing themselves by name. Percival. Tantris. Well, Tantris is a different name, but still. Obviously Tristan. Gawain. Despite all these named enemies of Camelot being here, he didn't call anybody. No one did. So which means maybe they're still under the effect of the rings that Gawain put on everybody. But even still, that seems pretty hard to press. They gave their real actual names. But Beltripe seems unbothered and is actually hoping for something interesting that'll actually make his blood boil. But he's not foolish enough to not at least protect himself with something. He erects a protective barrier with the 4-spired shield. So that's interesting. So Beltripe, he bounces back and forth between someone who's interested in battle, interested in strong opponents, wants his blood to boil, but still doesn't want to risk his own life. So I wonder how powerful he is without the chaos stuff, or if this is a new reflection born of the chaos stuff. The balance of how much of the real original individual stays and when they get infused with chaos directly is still unknown. Obviously, Pelgard and Ironside lost their care for the things that they cared about most. They did not care about Fiona and Richard. Pelgard's wife in his case, they didn't care for Deodora. Ironside's kid in that case, but still. I wonder what Beltripe was originally like before the Chaos Infusion. However, with it being the case, we see Percy think, guess winning this festival is my only chance, huh? Yeah, and that does make sense. Once again, it would be kind of bad if Nakaba kind of just left the door open for them to just, all gank Beltripe while he just sat there unguarded. But I do wonder, will Beltripe actually come down? If he really doesn't care and he's like, y'all are maggots, I'll grant your wish, whatever, then would he even lower the barrier? Would he just grant the wish indiscriminately? I don't know. We'll see by the end of the tournament, if we even get to the end of the tournament. As was pointed out eloquently before, in Seven-Deadly-Sins, the duology, we typically don't get to the end of tournaments. But, with it being the case, we see, Gareth declares, ready to get beaten, like I said yesterday. And Capodoni announces, the rules of the battle are quite simple. If you kill your opponent, knock them out, make them give up, or throw them in the pit on the outer edges, you win. So, these rules do leave a bunch of loopholes. Number 1, you can slaughter each other. Now, obviously, as many people point out, maybe Gareth's ability isn't directly associated with slaughter, but considering they do seem to have a cloning ability, maybe Camelot does function that way, where if you are slain in Camelot, if someone gives you them shots, then maybe your soul will just linger out your body, you'll lose, and then your soul will go back into your body, preserving your wishing energy for the future. And, or, Gareth's ability is multifaceted. It isn't just a cloning ability that we'll see later, but it is actually a proper multifaceted ability, a hero-type magic, where there are multiple functions, fashions, and flows to it, depending on Gareth's interpretation and abilities. Wouldn't be too shocking, they were born and raised in Onfwyn, meaning that it's very likely that their abilities are somewhat chaotic, if you will. Okay, I'm sorry. But the other idea, throw them into the pit of the outer edges. That is how you win. So, hypothetically, if you were to throw someone beyond the pit with the outer edges, such as, I don't know, into the stands, that doesn't immediately disqualify them. Once again, actually, that's spoilers. But then again, when is Hunter x Hunter actually getting the rest of this anime adapted? Or the rest of the manga adapted? But Togashi finishes it. So, no time soon. Essentially, well, no, that's spoilers. I know that's spoilers. Essentially, I think it's vague enough spoilers that someone wouldn't get it unless you have context. But essentially in Hunter x Hunter, there's a place called Heaven's Arena. And notably, you can knock somebody out to win, but you can also declare a death match. But it seems like there is this full-side idea. And in one of the battles in Hunter x Hunter, the whole audience ring is technically an extension of the arena. The fighters did not get disqualified for going out into the audience. So I could see something similar happening here. Especially considering a good chunk of our combatants can fly, or at least make a roundabout way to fly, such as Donnie. I would not be shocked if the scale of the matches does not get limited to this admittedly very large arena, and does actually end up going far beyond it. Because throwing Percy into the outer edges wouldn't do anything, he'd just fly back up. Throwing Nasians into the outer edges wouldn't do anything, he'd just fly back up. Donnie could grab a platform, put it underneath himself, and lift himself back up. Hauser can likely use the winds in order to fly. I think he has before. I forget off the top of my own piece if he has, though. Like, half of our combatants. Gawain is always flying, so that's 5. Then Tristan has wings. He can fly. Or he can make wings, at least. So I need 2 more to prove, like, half the contestants can fly, essentially. But who knows? Once again, we don't know Turth and Rothis' full ability, so maybe they can fly too. So overall, the outer edges seems just vague enough that I could see battles either reaching high into the sky, into the audience themselves, considering they don't seem to be protected by any sort of barrier, and also possibly even outside the realm of this little arena here, where they get thrown super far out. And they'd be like, whoa, Pencil, isn't that a lot to happen? But considering we do have matchups such as Ballin versus Gawain and Hauser versus anybody, really, considering the scale of his attacks. Like, there is a genuine possibility that this battle and the scale of it does go super duper large, which I'm a little bit excited for. This first battle, though, I don't really see it getting that far. It's based on what Gareth has shown so far. As we see that Bors says, wait a minute, Percival, the night of the apocalypse. Wait. That felt so fake. I'm sorry. That felt so fake. But he's shocked to see Big Percy, as he remembers what Anne told him. You won't find a knight more pure and caring than that boy. I suggest you quit bad-mouthing him, young man. Which is hilarious, because I'm pretty sure Bors is their same age. As he says, well, let's see for ourselves then. As remember, like I mentioned earlier, he's never actually seen the knights fight. So this is actually his first exposure to them. As Edlin is once again just hyped up to hopefully get his gamble off. As we see that Bors wants to see how much of a man Percival truly is. And Capital Ni finally announces, so, Block A, Battle 1, Percival versus Gareth. The fight begins now. And Percy smiles as Gareth frowns and immediately lunges in. Now, once again, I think this is good to establish how powerful post-time skip Percy is. We've sort of been dancing around and playing that game for a while now, just truly understanding the depths of post-time skip Percy's potential. Well, this is another good showing of it, where Gareth goes in with everything. They swing their blade numerous times. In fact, let me count the arcs, because we do get a specific number later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I can't tell. I literally cannot tell. But let's see. Let me count the swords. That seems like 1 sword, 2 sword, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, so if I count the swords, or at least what would be swords, or at least blade apparitions, there are exactly 7 swings. And Percy, notably with his bare hand, by the way, and I can't tell if it's all one hand. Does he use both hands for it, or is it just one hand? I actually can't tell. Hold on. The ring. I gotta follow the ring. I think he may use just one hand. No. I think he does use both hands, because I don't see the ring on this hand, and then there's the ring here. But then again, it may just be the angle, because he's doing this with the hand. So maybe it is all his right hand that he's blocking with. But still, he manages to catch, neutralize, and block all 7 strikes that Gareth goes for immediately, with no issue at all. And then Gareth retreats immediately. Now, we do get an interesting perception feat, I guess I would call it, as everyone is bamboozled and amazed by the feat. Edlin can't seeming to even understand it. Bors is genuinely blown away. And Anne is the only one to point out, wow, 7 slashes in that single instant? And now, admittedly, I interpreted this one way in the live reaction, so there are technically 2 interpretations of this. Donnie says, whoa, you can see that? Which implies that maybe Donnie can't see it, or maybe he's just impressed with Anne's tactile perception. I don't know. I think it would make more sense for Donnie and Anne to have similar levels of perception. I think it would actually be weird if Anne is the only one who could perceive it. And Nassim does well. I think all 3 of the Percy platoon should be able to perceive it. But based on Donnie's sweat drop, I could also see the interpretation that Anne just has better perception than Donnie. I mean, she is a sword wielder, but Donnie's a dagger wielder, and we haven't seen him wield his dagger too often recently, so maybe, I don't know. Still, it's interesting, because Anne is the one who has the most concrete and like, okay, that's how it happened this way, this many times. That's why I specifically went to count the 7 swords that we saw in motion. And we see Nassim say, and look at that, Percival parrying them all. Which goes to show, once again, Percy's extreme supremacy. If someone like Donnie is struggling to perceive the 7 slashes, or was unable to perceive them at all, but Percy wasn't only just able to perceive them, but actually catch them all casually and take no damage. The blade didn't even break his skin. And let me see, does he catch the... okay, but very particularly, he does not engage with the sharp side of the blade. He does only touch the flat of the blade. So, like, say, for example, keep using this sword, because look enough it is dull. But, like, say I were to swing and catch it. This is impressive, and arguably more impressive than this, because I caught the sharp end of the blade. But of course, this blade isn't actually, it's not actually sharp. Like, If I tried, I probably could, but I'm not going to. But ultimately, it is impressive that Percy not only managed to intercept the swings, but specifically intercept them on their flat side, considering he would have to not just block the blade, which is being swung at him like this, he would have to move his hand and force the flat of the blade to stop and not reach him. So overall, Percy, very, very impressive tactilely, perception-wise, and motion-wise. And notably, he seems rather unperturbed by this, while Gareth seems completely annoyed. As Capital Knee declares, "Oh wow, and Gareth with the sword attack too fast to follow, but Percival is unhurt. Just as amazing a sight." And we see Gareth lunges in for another swing, but unfortunately Percy does go on the offensive a little bit here, or at least I suppose a counter-offensive, as they lunge in before Gareth can finish their swing, clearing the distance between them immediately, and pushes them back, shoving them away. And boom, all the way through, sending Gareth on a roll. Now, I want to say this is a roll because the tumble effects are used here, and Gareth is forced to slide to a stop. If this was just their immediate retreat, I don't think they'd have to slide to kill all the momentum. And we see Percy happy that he just well, I don't think this is Capital Knee. I think this is just Donnie saying, "Wow, he swatted Gareth away like a fly." And Percy says, "That was a Gurren move," which I actually don't remember. Now that I looked it up, Gurren was what was happening, ironically enough, in the town with Edlin, I do believe. That's what they were wrestling, and I remember now because I saw it. He made a joke about like doing Gurren alone with Anne. Pre-time skip though, and thusly, him pulling out a wrestling move is pretty interesting, considering, once again, he is not armed with a blade. And none of the knights, nor the knights' accomplices, have gotten their sacred treasures yet, which is an interesting detail. I'm wondering when they are going to get it. Presumably, they may not get it in time for the time of their fights, which does make sense. Like, presumably, the time flows are similar. I don't think Dubs is working in any sort of faster time realm. So he is individually making all these weapons for these people on just his assumptions. I don't think did they explain their magic? I don't think they did, but I don't remember. But with it being the case, we see that ultimately Hauser admits that wasn't meant to damage his foe. Or that was a poor Hauser voice. That wasn't meant to damage his foe. And Anne says, "Oh, it's a range thing." And she realizes why Percy did that and why Hauser points out that it wasn't actually meant to damage Gareth, as when Gareth looks up, they see a massive army of big old hands floating atop them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we only had 7. But with it being the case, we see that even Capital Knee is caught up guard as he says, look at this! English, gigantic hands have appeared in the air. And Gareth themselves is even confused, going, huh? As Percy admits, "This is my finisher! Meteor hand!" and throws his own hand down in order to control the hands coming down on top of Gareth. Now, this is interesting. Unless I'm mistaken... No, never mind. I was wrong in the live reaction. We have seen pre-time skip Percy have constructs entirely autonomous to him. I still remember Teniac was being carried by one big old Percy bubble. But still, this goes to show Percy's evolved control over the life spirits as he formulates multiple hands, nowhere near connected to him, and then he throws them down on top of Gareth. However, Gareth does manage to dodge most of them, and very specifically loses presumably their boot, I think, or at least gets slightly tagged by their boot, and then goes off, rolling away. And we see that Donnie says, "Oh man, this makes a Talisker fight look like kid stuff." And the sheer number, too. So, essentially, that is a cute callback to Talisker. Because if you remember, when Percy was fighting Talisker, he did make a big old hand, but it was still connected to him. And then he hit Talisker with it. But now Percy's able to create hands, presumably, at least by what Donnie says here, of greater size and greater scale, all at once, and control them autonomously from a distance to slam them down. Showing, once again, how much more powerful Percy has gotten over the 2-year time skip, thanks to an evolution of his understanding, presumably. And we see that Percy is, once again, just having himself a little jolly old time by going, ho, ha, and trying to crush Gareth. But Gareth is actually pretty impressively able to dodge them all until one more. All the smoke gets blown up by Percy destroying the arena, and Capital Knee says, "Gareth has no answer for Percival's intense barrage. Could it be that it's all over so soon?" And as Percy closes his eyes to sense Gareth, he tracks something. Now, I'm not sure if he tracks Gareth's magic here or Gareth's life force. Presumably, Percy's able to track both through the smoke as he throws down another hand and crushes something. You don't hear any cracking sounds, but everyone's blown away. And Capital Knee even declares, "One of the hands has found Gareth." But we see something interesting. No, wait. That didn't damage Gareth at all. The magical souls are osmosising right through Gareth's body. And Percy's confused himself as the Gareth says, that sure was a close one, Gareth. And we see that Gareth says, yeah, thanks for the lore. Bleh. Making fun of Percy with a different type of blade. As Percy goes, what? There's two Gareths now? And this is interesting. So, initially in the live reaction, I keep referencing the live reaction, but that's what I was initially thinking. In the live reaction, we check it over on Patreon for Souls Wonder Month. Remember, for Souls $3 a month. I thought this was a literal tangible clone. And I thought the Percy that interacted with Gareth previously did interact with the clone Gareth based on the personality, the tongue out, the more cut eyes, the general more playful and mean personality. And that would explain why Gareth says he never met Percy, because his double met Percy in battle. But the attack didn't have any effect on him. But why? Is it because Gareth is some sort of spirit themselves and life spirits can't harm each other? I wouldn't say that, but maybe. I don't know why the attack phases right through this Gareth, unless this is an illusion Gareth. But considering the Gareth that we saw stab Edlin, seemingly enough, was the real Gareth, and Percy interacted with a tangible Gareth when he blocked all the sword swings with his blade, I don't know. I don't know why Gareth is able to phase through, or their copies able to phase through this attack. But Gareth was able to use them as a substitute, which is all very, very interesting. So Gareth's ability does seem quite potent, quite powerful, and I can't wait to see it further used against Percy. Do I think Percy's going to lose? No. Not at all. He better not. I'd actually be shocked. But with it being the case, that would have been bad. Actually, will you fall out? Oh, yes, slowly but surely. But a W chapter. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and let's leave a phrase. 2 for 1 special. 2 for 1 special. 4 words in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you know when I miss out on any news that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon below where you support me first of all as one kind of month. Now, you things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel first of all as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some perks include the live reactions to this year's I happen to review, including I believe it's about 20-minute live reaction to this very chapter, which you check it over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can become a member for as little as $3 a month. Also, I do link to a Ko-Fi in the description below. You can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Zara, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Brandon Payne, G Prosper, and Glacier XZ. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 members, Fine and Austin Wimberly, A Uchiha, along with Yuki Ally. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 members, Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 patrons, Overlord Zero, Waki Munoz, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a final, giga, legendary, superhuman, beyond the bounds of reality thank you to our That Guy with a Pencil tier patron. Okay. Calvin Elder.